Thank you very much indeed, Professor Thomas Tsai, for sharing this insight with us. And I would already highlight, it's remarkable how you highlight the prominence of the Taizhou school. My experience in China is when I was referring to the Taizhou school, even in Taizhou, or to conference in Taizhou, nobody knew about this Taizhou school. So I found really remarkable how much I think you confronted Aleni and Pantoja to this Taizhou school. Now, before giving everybody the chance, that's exactly the logic of the Taizhou school. There is no master. Everybody is a sage. Everybody can speak. We want to give a voice to a master. So our host, so to speak, Dean Father Cyril Law. Some of you remember his talk on his PhD, John Newman and Ma Xiangbo. And so I thought, for several reasons, it would be good, Father Cyril, if you could first initiate the debate, giving reactions to a number of insights of Professor Thomas Tsai. Thank you.
First of all, gratitude to the Matteo Ricci Institute for giving me the opportunity to have this forum held in our faculty on our campus for one of our faculty members could then showcase the result of the research. But it also gives us opportunity to renew old friendships and to forge new ones. As I think friendship is the key word for Matteo Ricci, is it not? A theme that we shall continue. I think it is quite providential that Professor Tsai should end his slide with this very fresco, because that is the very fresco that I showed my student at the end of class last Thursday. So my students in the church history of Asian missions. We could not have planned this. Yes. As I walked past St. Ignatius for several years, studying at the Gregoriana, living near the Pantheon. So I walk past San Ignacio almost every day. So this fresco is still fresh in my mind. Great applause really to Professor Tsai for having provided a very succinct yet well-structured presentation of not just one, but two great minds, Diego de Pantoja and Giulio Aleni, in not just a structured way, but in a way that presented the nuances that are necessary to understand the various strands, internal, external, and even posthumously influences on the interpretation of nature and the self. Now, for some reason, when I first heard about this topic, it echoed in my mind that very, perhaps, I don't know whether it's already tried or outdated sociological debate that was much in vogue since the 60s up to the late 90s, which in American academia, it's almost a de rigueur studies for undergraduates, that is the nature versus nurture debate. I think although it's not on the same topic per se, but then the way that we scholars still like to cast our discussions on human nature based on that preternatural and societal influence. That means whether by human efforts or societal influence, etc., and to set it up as a kind of a contrast. Although you did not specify that it was a stark contrast in making the themes of whether it is a dualism between overcoming nature, overcoming self. However, I think it still echoes our modern dualistic way of, or parallel way of looking at our the unexplainable or the unexplained For example, what we now even we adopt the scientific term DNA to explain how the ethos of a certain nation. For example, it is quite common among Hong Kong or Macau modern day media to say that there are certain agricultural DNA genes in the Chinese people. Therefore, they are still, very clannish. They spit on the ground. They don't not able to, act urbane manner. We even use the word DNA there to sort of say, oh, that is a problem in their nature. Okay. As if years of nurture and societal influence could not help them to overcome that nature. But then your topic enlightened us to say, to open up a new horizon to an old platform that is, wait a minute, our missionaries who have come in contact with this country, which is so vast. I know a lot of the debates of the rights controversy has to do with the Franciscans and Dominicans mainly evangelizing the coastal and agricultural people, whereas the Jesuits are more in contact with the literati and the middle upper classes, learned people, creating the differences of impression. But still, is it a matter of overcoming self, which is, as you said, virtue? Now, a point that I want to raise perhaps for discussion and reflection is for the missionaries who are engaging in this metaphysical alliance with the Confucianism in order to attack Buddhism in a way, is virtue, the cultivation of virtue, necessary for salvation? I mean, is it part of the calculation of the divine plan that virtues are cultivated for the sake of overcoming self or self-desires, or even the restoration of wounded nature? Is that a must? Or is it the cultivation of virtues just an add-on to faith, etc.? Because I believe these were the original big debates that could have come into the horizon when these topics were being raised. And Professor Chai have mentioned the need to understand new interpretations of neo-Confucius schools of thoughts in order to understand why the Jesuit missionaries took what originally is not a dominant theme in Catholic theology, but brought to the fore for discussion. And when I was contemplating that and hearing your analysis, I remember I picked up just precisely this book with Qike in it. Yes. And where did I bought it? Where did I buy it? In a bookshop in Rua de Felicidade, which is just 5 minutes walk from here. Yes. There is a new bookshop there, Wenhua Gongguan, right in Fulong Xinjie, where you can buy this book. And so I bought Qike. And then here in the commentary, it says that whether Diego or Ricci or Giulio Aleni may have had a leitmotif of forming this metaphysical alliance with the Confucianists in order to squash all the possible Buddhist, erroneous Buddhist teachings or philosophy on life, particularly on the errors of reincarnation and retribution, and more substantially about the nature of human desires. That is the illogicity of extinguishing all human desires to achieve nirvana and whatnot, which Ricci already pointed out, that itself is an indistinguishable desire. So could it be that the strategic alliance to attack Buddhism be part of the motive or reason why the Jesuits brought to the fore this idea of overcoming self as a way of illustrating Christian asceticism is the more authentic way as an alternative to Buddhist asceticism. So I think I should leave my comments here, and so that it's just hope this would just be inspiration for more exciting points of discussion from the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dean Cyril. Would you already briefly like to react or wait a moment for further reactions?
I just have a short, would say, answer, or not answer, I would say. Short reply to Father Cyril's comments. First, about the virtue, whether it can be a way for our salvation. This is exactly the topic I would like to do next. Yes, because I don't know, about 100 years ago, a Shanghai Jesuit in Paris, his name is, wow, my memory is gone. Anyway, a Shanghai Jesuit studied in Paris, and he wrote a dissertation on the pagan's virtue according to St. Augustine. I can't remember his name. Anyway, so what I would like to further explore is how early modern theologians, Catholic theologians, both Jesuits and the Dominicans, understood the virtue in pagans, and what is the value of these virtues. Because when they come to approach these people, they must have some idea of where is the place of these people in the salvation history. I think this is topic we can further explore. And the second thing is Buddhist, maybe the Buddhist influence on the formation of practicing virtues in the Jesuits. I think in the Buddhist tradition, they also appreciate the value of control the body, because in Buddhist they have more negative attitude toward body, and there was a debate between Buddhists and Confucians in Chinese history on whether we should cut off our hair, because the practice of Buddhist monks is cut off their hairs. But for Confucian scholars, they thought that our hair and any part of the body belong not just to us, but also to parents. So we should respect the body. So anyway, so I think probably the influence is not, the Buddhist influence on the Jesuits on this topic probably is not so big, because in the Buddhist tradition, they do appreciate the value of conquering the desire of body and achieve the enlightenment.
Respond to the first point. At first, I thought I would not have to bring this up, but since you did mention something about 100 years ago, in 1921, when Ma Xiangbo reprinted a book called Yin Zhi Shi Le, the brief collection of teachings on patience, on the word patience, yin zi, yin nai de yin. So when he republished that work, in his preface, he quoted extensively from none other than Pantoja's Qike. Yes, yeah. And I found in his family letters and from back in 1915 and 1918, he kept on writing to the library, a Jesuit library in Xijiahui, asking to read a copy of the Qike. So for some reason then, Ma Xiangbo took great interest in making use of the teachings in Qike to enlighten his idea of patience. So patience is, of course, that one of those virtues that we speak a lot in our culture. But just to be very, very short, Ma Xiaobo debunked that popular idea of patience, saying if it is someone with virtue, then patience makes him much more stronger. But if it's someone who does not have virtue, patience would only make him angrier. So
with this deep insight, now I open the floor, including to all these colleagues and friends online. Do not hesitate to share your thoughts in the chat room. Welcome for giving any reaction or asking difficult questions to both Professor Thomas Tsai and Dean Cyril Lob.
Before the question,
Yeah.
my memory come back. The Shanghai Jesuit wrote the work on Pig virtue according to Augustine. His name is Wang Changzhi.
I think evil and sin, evil, suffering ultimately are not problems, so they can't be solved. We can't find solution. It's mystery. No Christian would say they are mysteries. When we come to evil, sin, suffering, so there is no solution. There is no human answer. Okay, this is one thing. Secondly, I would like to know, in your research of these three Jesuits, of Ricci, Pantoja and Aleni, probably, I don't know whether they have come across this book by Dante, Divine Comedy, about the seven sins, and then also seven virtues through the journey from purgatory to from hell to purgatory and then to heaven. This classic Italian classic Divine Comedy. And my question is, which is the greatest sin? Now, is it pride? Is it ingratitude? Is it lust? According to the Chinese, 萬惡淫為首, 萬惡淫為首. Now, according to the Chinese, lust, you mentioned this right at the beginning of your talk, that lust seemingly is the greatest sin. Now, according to the Western tradition, it may not be. You read the other classics, devotion to Christian life, Thomas Campus, may not be. But once more, I would like you to, maybe my thoughts are all scattered. If you can zero in from your research, what do you think about, you mentioned about also this healing, which I appreciate very much. We emphasize nowadays healing of human ruined nature. We need healing, not so much overcome human nature, but healing. We are all wounded healers in certain ways, right? So maybe I hope you can make something out of this.
Thank you, Father Gregor, for your question. Well, it's a difficult question because which sin would be the most severe? As far as I know, I don't have a definitive answer to this question. But I think for the missionaries, infidelity. Yeah, infidelity is not a thing mentioned in this seven victories, because infidelity related to a supernatural virtue, which is faith. Infidelity can be a big problem, and that's the motivation for these missionaries to come to China to evangelize people. I think this is one of the things, the most severe things probably in their ideas. But I'm not sure for the book of seven victories, which thing is the most severe. If I come across the answer, maybe I can share it with you next time. And for healing of the nature. Now, both Aleni and Pantoja, they emphasize that we need grace. Yeah, grace. And they translated it according to its pronunciation. Gratia, like that. Yes, they didn't translate as enchong, something like that. And maybe for them, why they translated it according to its pronunciation, maybe the reason can be they cannot find a proper Chinese Chinese word, or they thought that gratia is a very prominent, and they cannot find a proper word to describe it. But anyway, they mentioned gratia, they mentioned the grace, and they said it is freely given. It is freely given to us, and they were grace and virtue will work together. They work together. Both of them are important. Our efforts and God's work are both important for us to achieve spiritual perfection.
Great. Maybe along these lines, we could go back to the different shades of the content of the term concupiscence.
Concupiscence.
And I would also refer to an important research being done, and we have here a specialist on Thomist and Aristotelian ethics sitting here. So maybe question to Professor Edmund A. Would you maybe also share from the wells of your research, on Aristotelian ethics, also the difference of the term concupiscence, in Thomas Aquinas, for instance, in difference to concupiscence with Saint Augustine, and maybe react this very interesting kind of confrontation what Professor Thomas made with the school of Taijo. I think that's maybe kind of a way to go further in this question of Father Gregory.
Yeah, thank you. So just two comments because Father Stefan invited me. So I was thinking about this during your talk, Professor Thomas. So of course the first reaction would be that in Aristotelian philosophy we have the notion of akrasia, the incontinence of the will. So a weakness of the will. So of course that there will be one question for the moral development of human being. So without the doctrine of original sin, Aristotle recognizes that human beings naturally suffer from weakness of the will. We wish to do good, but we are unable to do it. So that would be one issue that could help us enter the dialogue between Greek and Chinese tradition. Yes. But during your talk, I was thinking about this. Overcoming nature is understood as 克己, right? So then
克性,
yeah, overcoming nature. So what is is there any connection between 克性 and 自修? Because you talk about cultivation referring to the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 自修 and 修身 also refers to formation or cultivation of the body. So would you like to comment on that?
Mm-hmm. The relation between overcoming self, or we say overcoming sin, and overcoming human nature, I briefly mentioned in the presentation. My understanding is that as we have seen in the case of Aleni's dialogue with Chinese Catholics, the question is how we can overcome the sin of gluttony. And the answer from Aleni is we should overcome our human nature. So according to the Jesuits of that time, of these two Jesuits, if we would like to overcome sins, fundamentally, we should go back to the root of sins, the root of our selfish desire. That is the wounds of our human nature. And that's approach. And that's the reason for them to say that ultimately we should overcome human nature. And simply we say to overcome self would not be sufficient in this case. That is my understanding.
I think we will have many issues to discuss further. So before giving the last round, of course, to our beloved speakers, I would ask you maybe if there is not burning last question, so give you the chance to maybe share, if there is anything out of the debate or of this evening you would like to share. It can be a question stimulating our debate over the refreshments, or any special insight what you want to challenge also the audience to reflect further. So please also.
Yes, why I choose to do the topic on human nature. One of the reasons, of course, is my doctoral dissertation is on what's the theory called pure nature in Robert Bellarmine's commentary on the Summa. Now, pure nature is a state of human nature which actually have never happened in history. We call it hypothesis, hypothetic state of human pure nature. So it's related to human nature. And then I find that people sometimes will say that Christianity proposed a very pessimistic understanding of human nature because of original sin. So for a lot of ordinary Chinese people, their impression is that Christianity, including Catholicism, teach that our nature is bad, our nature is evil. Okay? But now it's related to my experience of conversion. I was not a cradle Christian, so I converted to the Catholic Church when I was 20 years old. One of the reasons I converted to Catholicism is that it has a relatively positive understanding of the goodness of human nature. As I mentioned in the presentation, some Protestant people in China would call Catholics understanding human nature as a Pelagianism, because it says our nature is still there's some goodness in our nature. So that's, and in Confucianism, we have seen that we always say that for Confucianism, our human nature is good. So it leads me to the reflection on how to understand the goodness of human nature in my home tradition, that is Catholic tradition, and the Confucian tradition. So that's the journey which leads me to this topic. And I think that upon the reflection on the history of the debate, we can find a solution, at least partially, in the idea I mentioned, like the image of God. Okay? It helps give us a rich sources to explore how human nature is still good after Adam's sin. And of course, the theological axiom, grace does not destroy our nature, but make it perfect, is also another sources for Catholics to reflect on the goodness of human nature. Because at least for Thomas Aquinas, even in our current state, we still have the capacity to receive grace. If we do not have the capacities to receive grace, how can Christ elevate us? How Christ can heal us? So this is my reflection. And finally, the point I mentioned at the end of my presentation is that today we have the temptation to see the Jesuit missionary as a work of cultural exchange. Okay? Probably for people today, it is true, but for the Jesuits like Matteo Ricci, like the Pantoja and Aleni, their work their journey to China, to the East, is not to do works like culture exchange. What they would like to is to save the souls of people in the East. I think when we study this topic historically, we should bear this point in our mind, not to take it simply as take this missionary work as a work of culture exchange. There is something more in it.
Thank you for this important reminder. Now also, Father Cyril, let's maybe seize the chance, challenge this audience. What is maybe also in terms of research?
Yes.
Please share your thoughts.
Yes. I think, yes.
The question is, thank you for your excellent lecture. Do you think the idea of human nature was also the mutual understanding between Jesuits and local Chinese elites in the late Ming, like Ricci's friend Nietzsche's idea of childish innocence in art and music?
Yes, it can be a mutual understanding. As I said in this presentation, there are two sources. One source is the Catholic sources. That's the Catholic understanding of human nature. Okay, but at the same time, when the Jesuits encounter Chinese Confucian scholars, they must learn the ideas from Chinese people, from the Confucian tradition. And this interaction with Chinese Confucian tradition will, I think, lead them to coin their statement like to overcome human nature, to overcome self. But in the case of Aleni and the Pantoja, I think the principal source in their idea is still Christian, or we say still Catholic. It's not it's not totally based on the Confucian idea of human nature. Yes, that's if we say Chinese is 基督教神学为主啊。That's the principle is still Catholic theology.
Great. Again, we will continue our discussion over the refreshments, but now over to Dean Cyril. So please share your insights.
Thank you. I think we can all generally agree that this topic that Professor Chai has opened up for us is a continuation of that great tradition where we stand on the shoulders of giants and following the great Thomistic tradition, whether it be sed contra or respondio, you are still we still quote authorities of giants that have gone before us. So I will continue on by that tradition by saying how St. John Henry Newman would use two rather controversial concepts to sort of provide us with that theoretical bridge to bridge that ideological gap that exists between East and West. That is the dispensation of the pagans. That's an old term that he used in Victorian English, the pagan dispensation, where even in that he introduced the even more controversial thesis, that is universal revelation. We know there is a definitive Christian revelation, but in John Henry Newman's thoughts, there is such a thing as universal revelation, which is something which later on Vatican II picked up. They say the seeds of truth in all the cultures and nations and all that. And I think, and jumping to the other side of the universe, we have Ma Xiongbo, who in his ideas of introducing Christian and Catholic principles to the people of China, he really picked on the concept of the creator. Creation, that the common basis of our of our conscience in understanding things supernatural is an acknowledgement of having a creator. Okay, that is the very basis of which Ma Xiangbo built his whole theoretical system, and I think that chimes in with your proposal of refocusing on our imago Dei, of an image of God in us. So I think great minds think alike. Standing on the shoulders of giants, we can build this high edifice of a Christian house that houses everybody. May I just very quickly return to Father Gregory's point? I will quickly scan through Pantoja's book, Qike. He says, of all the vices that there are, pride is the one that corrupts everything, because you can even show pride after you die by building a very sumptuous tomb. So the vice of pride even survives death.
So without, that's an excellent
and
final word.
And the nature of Adam's sin is also pride.
So therefore, it's an excellent final word, because without pride, and but with deep humility, I want to hint at the Matteo Ricci Institute Journal, where we already in issue number 10, we have dealt on this spiritual transformation. We will have the contribution of also here present scholars and Professor Thomas Tsai in issue number 13. The next will be on Ferdinand Verbiest, and the next second volume, where also professors are involved of USJ, is the second volume, Dialogue with China, will be next week on corporate philanthropy. It was a long birth, but now the baby is coming out. So again, in great humility, thanks very much for excellent lecture, Thomas, and also Father Cyril. Great inspiration and challenge for us to go further with our research. And now for everybody, we have at the first floor refreshments. Feel welcome to challenge, also including Father Gregory, Professor Edmund, all of us over these complex issues. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.